everybody. Welcome along to the very first Beats Working in conversation. It's great to be here. Basically, Ian and I have had this idea for some time now of him and myself geeking out on drums. And what's not to like about that? It sounds pretty good to me. And I'm absolutely thrilled to have my awesome sidekick, great guy and fabulous drummer, Mr. Ian Palmer. How are you doing, Ian?
Mate, I'm doing really well. I was going to say it's good to see you, but we've been talking about this for a while. So it's finally come to fruition. And I'm looking forward to talking drums.
Absolutely. What's not to like?
Absolutely.
So hopefully everybody out there is going to enjoy it as well. And this is something we're hopefully going to do 1 or 2 a month. We don't want to flood the market too much, keep you wanting more. Just chat about drums, percussion, cymbals, drummers, gear, anything, whatever takes our fancy. Now, obviously, we got our heads together back in, it was I think it was last year, actually, to start planning the Beats Working Drum Festival in Manchester, which was sadly swiftly ended by COVID, I think we shall say. Which is a shame, because it was a good lineup, wasn't it?
It was a fantastic lineup. Who did we have? Dom Famularo, Pete Lockett, Kaz Rodriguez, Pete Cater, Steve White. Mate, I'm just so sorry it didn't happen. But do you know what? We can do it again. We can organise it again and make it happen. So all is not lost. It was a temporary halt to proceedings.
Yeah, we keep smiling. We keep going on. Now then, I guess the obvious place to start is the beginning. So how did it all begin for you then?
Do you know what? That's a really good question. Well, I've been playing drums for almost 35 years. So I'm 44 now. So I would have been 9 when I first got bitten by the bug. And I have 2 uncles that play drums. One of them is Carl Palmer, who was the drummer with the band Emerson, Lake and Palmer in Asia. And my other uncle, who maybe is not quite so well known, is Steve Palmer, who is a fantastic drummer and more of a jazz drummer. So he was the drummer at Ronnie Scott, the resident drummer at Ronnie Scott's in Birmingham originally. So I think with 2 uncles that play drums, I didn't really have an awful lot of choice. I thought I fell into it. I was chucked into playing drums. I come from a musical family. So it really started, and I can remember the moment that it started for me. And this was one Christmas watching a VHS video of Emerson, Lake and Palmer in 1977 playing at the Montreal Olympic Stadium. And I was watching this footage on TV over Christmas there, 9-year-old boy with my dad, and my uncle was playing. This is the time, of course, where drummers were featured in rock bands. So it was Emerson, Lake and Palmer. I mean, how many times does the drummer's name appear in the band name now? So he was playing this big drum. Yeah, he was playing this big drum solo, and his stadium was absolutely huge. And he was doing all this stuff. I mean, I couldn't possibly get away with it, but taking his shirt off and all of this, and banging the gongs and the whole thing. It was really rock and roll. It was really showbiz. But I said to my dad, that's what I want to do. That is what I want to do. That's what I want to do with my life. And I remember it. But the thing is now, you think about all of those drummers that we love now, Vinnie Colaiuta, Greg Bissonette, they've all got that moment in time where they say, that's when I decided I want to play drums. And I noticed actually a lot of them have one event in common, and that was the Beatles invasion. So and that was when the Beatles played on the Ed Sullivan Show. I've seen so many interviews of these guys, and they all said, that was the point for me when I wanted to play drums, when I saw Ringo play with the Fab Four. So, that's where it started for me, was watching that VHS video of Emerson, Lake and Palmer.
And what a great grounding for you, having your uncle, the big stadium rock. It's big theatre stuff, isn't it? Really.
Oh, it really is.
It's huge, showy stuff. But your other uncle, who's into the jazz side, it's great having both sides of it, isn't it? Yeah. Both sides of the coin.
And it's interesting because they both spent quite a lot of time away from home at different times. Carl when he was touring with the rock band, but also my uncle Steve played a lot on cruise ships and sort of went down that route. But I will say both of them have been tremendously supportive actually. And Steve, because he lived in Birmingham, still lives in Birmingham, and when I was there, we used to get together a lot and play drums together. And in fact, it's become a little bit of a tradition now, buying each other, even now, a CD for Christmas of what we're really into, and we share similar tastes in drummers, Steve and I, for sure. So
that's great. I like that. That's a good tradition.
Yeah.
And so, what was your first gig? Can you remember first ever gig, professional or otherwise?
Yeah, I do remember my first professional gig. Now, Birmingham in the late 80s was fantastic, and I can remember at that time, and I'm not the only person, but my diary was full of gigs at that time, and there were so many more gigs around, I think, than there are now.
Oh yeah.
But my first ever gig, I owe a huge debt of gratitude to a fantastic saxophone player who's since left us, but called Andy Hamilton. And Andy was fantastic, and his two sons both play as well. So he's got a son called Mark who plays alto saxophone, another son called Graham plays trumpet, who played in a band called Fine Young Cannibals.
Oh yeah.
Way back. So but Andy was fantastic, and he gave me my first Sunday lunchtime gig, as I must have been about 11 at the time, and obviously way too old to buy a drink, alcoholic drink that is, and I think I got paid the princely sum of £10, which was great. But yeah, Andy was fantastic. He gave so many guys actually in Birmingham a chance to play, and it's all jazz. It's all jazz music. But yeah, Andy Hamilton, check him out. He played. In fact, he made a record shortly before he passed away. He got an MBE as well. Got recognised for not only services to music, but also for helping so many young people get started. But he made an album. On that album was Mick Hucknall made a guest appearance, but fantastic drummer who we both know, called Mark Mondesi, played on the album as well. So yeah, Andy was fantastic. Certainly fantastic with all the younger musicians in the Birmingham area at that time.
That's amazing. I mean, your first gig and my first gig were a country mile apart. The thing that got me into drums was Live Aid.
Oh right, okay.
Simple as 1985, very hot summer. I was in Butlins with my parents, and we arrived on the Saturday of Live Aid, and I remember my mum saying, "Right, we're going out now." No, I sat in front of the TV from start to finish. I sat there all day, and I think it was Roger Taylor from Queen, when obviously they stole the show, didn't they? And I remember watching all these amazing. I remember watching Charlie Morgan with Elton.
Fantastic.
Oh, I was blown away, that's where it started. And my first gig, I was 12, maybe 13, in a local youth club with a heavy metal band playing Metallica and Megadeth cover versions.
Fantastic. Quite a different experience for both.
For the princely sum of no money at all.
Okay, yeah.
And we emptied the place. So, there we go. Got to start somewhere.
So I was just going to say that you've really got to start somewhere. But it's amazing actually when you think back to how did we all get started playing? How did we get bitten by the bug? How did we first? What made us want to play this instrument and get passionate about it? And it's just sort of grown really year on year, my passion for it, and finding ourselves now going through various stages of lockdown in this COVID-19 pandemic. I've actually practiced at the age of 44 now. I'm practicing more now than I think I ever have in my adult years. I'm practicing like I did when I was a teenager. Pretty much the only thing you can do right now, but annoy the hell out of the neighbours. But it's
it's great to have the time, though, isn't it? I mean,
it really is.
That's definitely the plus point to this lockdown. I've learned lots of different skills, more from the recording and video editing side of things, and a lot of practicing as well. But I've enjoyed it. Maybe I'm a bit strange. I don't know what
we've got to mention the interviews that you've been doing as well, and I've really enjoyed those. They've been fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, I got bored, and so I started just being cheeky and messaging drummers saying, "How do you fancy doing some interviews?" And I think 15 or 16 now. We're doing okay, And
well, you've interviewed two of my heroes actually for two different reasons, and one of them, of course, is the fantastic Michael Bland.
Oh,
how did that one come about?
Do you know what? I saw Prince. Oh gosh, 1994, 5, I want to say. And it was at the time when he was going through his he was artist formerly known as Prince, so he wasn't playing any of his well-known back catalogue. And I saw him. Do you remember the G-Mex in Manchester?
I do. I remember it very well.
Big old barn of a place.
Well, it really was.
Oh yeah, and the band came out, and I remember that because Michael Bland is a big guy, isn't he? He's but talk about lay it down. He was incredible.
I know.
And I was always, and of course, Diamonds and Pearls.
That drum fill.
That film, yeah.
I noticed that he mentioned that in the interview as well. He said, that drum fill. He obviously gets asked about it so many times.
Yeah, but it came about as simply as this, and I hope not everyone messages him now, but I just sent him a little message. I said, look, I'm doing this. I'm a fan of your play, and he's played with Wolfpack as well.
I was watching that video recently, and still, that groove.
Oh.
That fill and that groove. It's got it all, really,
amazing. And I just said, how about it? And he said, well, I've got time. I've got plenty of that at the moment. Yeah, let's do it. And we did the interview, and I said, I'll be about 40 minutes. 40 minutes came and went, and I said, should we stop now? No, I'm enjoying it. Let's keep going. So we did an hour, and then once I'd stopped recording, we talked for another hour as well. And what a great guy. What a great guy.
Yeah. The other guy that you interviewed as well, who was... When I first started playing, I used to listen to this guy so often on a couple of albums, actually, with the Count Basie Orchestra. One of my favourite albums was called Live in Japan in 1978 in Hamamatsu in Japan. And I think the album was called The Heat Is On. And that drummer was Butch Miles. Now, and there's another album as well, actually, 1977, live at the Montreux Jazz Festival. For anyone listening, anyone watching, check those albums out. Absolutely, absolutely immense big band playing, really inspirational.
And a guy these days, you don't hear his name. Obviously, there's a lot of people who do know him, but any of the younger, especially younger big band players watching, I know there's lots about. Check him out on YouTube because there's so much footage of him, and he's incredible. And again, what a nice guy. I did the interview with our friend Pete Cater as well on this one.
Yeah.
Obviously, Pete's kind of the oracle when it comes to big band and jazz drummers.
I know he really is. Yeah.
Oh, so we had a great. Again, it was an hour or so, and what a lovely guy. And some of the stories, some of the names. I'm a big Tony Bennett fan, and he played for Tony Bennett for 2 years in Vegas, and Sinatra, Ella Fitzgerald, as well as some of the incredible bands he's played for. So it's
and that was that was just about playing, and it doesn't matter what the genre was. He playing absolute beautiful time, and that's what he did.
Yeah,
as you know, I played with big bands alongside Pete, doing those World's Greatest Drummers events, and they were absolutely fantastic bands for each one of those events. But it is always a challenge to shepherd almost 16 other musicians around musically and to hold them all together. But he was certainly certainly a no-nonsense player, Butch Miles. Yeah, I love him. Yeah. Fantastic.
Great guy. I mean, I think he said he was 74, 78 maybe. I don't know. But do you know what?
He doesn't look that at all.
Looks well, and just a charming guy, So, yeah, I feel really honoured to have interviewed some of these guys, and it's something I want to keep going alongside what we're doing as well.
Doing this now, we're talking. We enjoyed it. We talk a lot on the telephone, but talking now, I'm just so passionate about the instrument and what we do. Yeah, we can talk forever about drums and drumming, and I know it's not ideal for everyone. I was up until March flying aeroplanes as well as alongside my musical career. So both of those have taken a bit of a hit. So I think at the moment, what else is there to do apart from keep those chops, fresh, keep practicing, and keep doing what we enjoy and keep positive. Yeah,
I mean, I'm lucky. My glass is always half full, never half empty. Yeah. So I'm always trying to find positives, and we could do this. This is how it came about, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. Because I've been doing webcasts on a Friday afternoon, the live streams, and that's interesting. And what surprises me with those, and that's on my Facebook page, Ian Palmer Drummer, every Friday at 3 p.m. UK time, 10 a.m. We get people on the East Coast of America watching 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And what surprises me with that whole thing is that I can do one of these webcasts and there's maybe 30 or 40 people live watching at that time. But it's amazing the way these things get found out as well, because by lunchtime the following day, there's a few hundred people have watched it, which is absolutely amazing. And sharing his passion.
Yeah. But it's nice to have somebody like yourself sharing information. I mean, there's lots of it. You can go on YouTube, I know, but it's nice to have that interaction. Somebody doing it live where you can say, well, hang on, how does this work? What are your thoughts on this? I think that's nice. I mean, anybody can email somebody and get an answer 6 months down the line, but to do it there and then, it's just something about that personal touch, which I like. I think that's great.
No, I agree. Certainly there are, we've spoken about this before, haven't we? There's certainly pros and cons of the technology that we have available to us. We use it to our advantage. But I was just thinking, perhaps I wasn't even going to share this tonight, but I'm going to. David Garibaldi talking about his history. When he started playing, he and some friends of his get together on Zoom and they talk every week, called the Stickmen. That's Gregory Rico, it's Mike Clark, Michael Shreve, and there's one other I can't remember, but anyway, and David. And he was saying when they get together, so they've known each other now for it would be 50 years. Since the 70s, and or maybe just under. But they were saying that actually it was very uncool around that time to copy each other. They would go to each other's gigs, they would support each other, they would go and watch each other play, but they would never copy. Yeah. And I found that's really that's interesting because it kind of changed now. We have YouTube available to us at our fingertips. We can watch Kaz Rodriguez, we can watch Steve Gadd, we can watch Keith Carlock, we can watch Benny Greb, Mark Juliana. We can watch all these guys straight away. And the problem with that is you can watch all these guys straight away. It leaves nothing to the imagination.
100%. Yeah.
What
There's probably an Ian Palmer clone out there somewhere just ripping you off.
Heaven forbid.
Taking all your gigs.
It probably is, actually. I was just thinking that around that time, David made that really good point that actually what did happen is you would only be able to actually listen to the vinyl. And you wouldn't be able to see these guys on YouTube. So actually what that did, that forced you to use your imagination and to think a little bit more. David's got this thing that he writes everything down when he practices. He writes all those ideas down, which is probably how he came up with all those fantastic grooves with Tower. So Tower of Power. And he was saying that actually, put the books away, be creative, use that imagination and develop something new because, whilst it's fantastic to watch all these drummers on YouTube, we have to be careful of the clone syndrome because we have to take this art form to the next level in the 21st century.
Yeah, it's never going to get there otherwise, is it, if we're just ripping other people? I mean, thankfully, I don't have the skills to rip anyone else off. I've got my bare bones thing which has got me through the last 30 odd years, and it's got me there, and I have no intention on changing it now.
I think you've been quite humble there, mate. You've done some fantastic gigs, and you told me about them. So
it's all right.
I tell you what, your organising of and your passion for this instrument and the events that you put on, absolutely amazing.
Well, of course, that's how we met 2.5 years ago. Believe it or not, it seems like longer.
It does. We speak a lot, so absolutely it does.
My wife actually found the phone bill the other day, and she kept seeing your phone number. I think she thought I was having an affair with somebody.
It is Ian, honestly.
Yeah. So 2.5 years ago, obviously I had I'm up in North Wales, by the way. Ian's, you're Maidenhead, aren't you?
Yeah. So you live in Hollywood, I think, don't you?
Hollywood.
You told me it was Hollywood.
Close. But up in North Wales, we don't get any clinics, any master classes. If we want to go to those, we go to Birmingham, Manchester, London. And I thought, right, I've had it. I'm done with this. So I started putting them on, and Steve White was a great name to have for the first one. Absolutely. Did really well.
Yeah.
And then I think I got in touch with you for the second one, and it was a great night. It was well attended.
I'm sure you told me it was in Hollywood. That's why I accepted the gig. I thought, here we go. This is it. I was expecting the airline ticket. No, in all seriousness, mate, it was absolutely fantastic. It was a brilliant evening. I showed up there, but I think you got about 120 people into the function room with this really lovely hotel there, and you were very kind. You put me up there as well. Which was fantastic. That's some lovely dinner.
Support act, everything.
We did, yeah, absolutely. But everybody was just so into it as well. And do you know what? I miss that now. I mean, over since March, there's been no drum clinics, there's been no events like that. It's all been online, which is fantastic because we're developing other avenues now that we can communicate with the drumming community at large. But, I remember when I started playing, my first Yamaha drum kit I purchased from the Birmingham Drum Centre when that was actually in a place called Sayre Hall Road in Hall Green in Birmingham.
I remember it.
It was just
you have to buzz to get in, didn't you? The door was always locked.
Well, it was a front room of a kind of corner terraced house, if I remember rightly.
I remember the advert in Rhythm magazine. I used to love that advert.
Yeah, if you ever see those adverts now, though, just check out the prices of the drums at the time.
Oh, scary, isn't it?
Pearl Export drum set, I think at the time, like £99 or 150 quid or something. So. But I remember that John was found, obviously Chris and Nicole took the shop on later when sadly John passed away before his time as well. But he was a fantastic, like you are, fantastic ambassador for our instrument. But he used to put on events, drum clinics, in the back of pubs. And I really miss that now. I mean, it's just so sad. I mean, the internet, again, is a blessing and a curse. It's fantastic that we can access things so quickly. We can buy equipment now online so quickly. We can get Toman, whoever. You can get stuff sent straight to you. But I do wish those guys would, invest a little bit more in maybe the promotion of our instrument as well, in the same way that John did then, the drum shops. And there's loads I used to. It was in my teens. I was, first became an endorsee for Yamaha drums, and clinic tours were a big thing. And I was able to go around to the drum stores as like a 17, 18-year-old spotty upstart, playing along with these backing tracks for everybody. And they were really. I thought that was the chance for us all to hang out together. And I will say, I think Russ Gleason and Neil Wilkinson, Neil doing a fantastic thing with the drum hands, which is brilliant, which is the next best thing to it that we can use at the moment. Yeah. But that face-to-face interaction, which was probably what I was trying to more or less create as well with the world's greatest drummer concerts.
Yes. There's nothing quite like, you can watch YouTube till the cows come home, there's nothing like sitting, a few feet away from a really great drummer with a beautiful kit mic'd up and just watching them do their thing. It's nothing like it. There really isn't.
I saw so many great drum clips that John, the drum, put on. My friend, my late friend, who was a wonderful drummer in London, sadly passed away it was almost 10 years ago. I thought just over 10 years ago now. Chris Dagley. And Chris was a fantastic drummer. Neil Wilkinson, I saw Neil do. He was doing a drum clinic in the Birmingham area when I was younger, and it was always a big event. You get there, and there's all the older boys there with their pint of bitter and bag of pork scratchings, watching the nursing one pint of bitter all evening. I don't think the bar takings were great, but no, fantastic.
But do you know? I used to love getting into a clinic, and you'd sit down and there'd be brochures on the seat with some stickers and whatever else you might get, a t-shirt or something if you're lucky. And I used to love that. Yeah. And even now when I see a brochure, I still a little twinge of it.
Yeah. What about the manufacturers now? Zildjian Day.
Oh, well, I'm glad you mentioned that.
Well, first of all, you had it in.
Right, yeah. Now I'm going to. Hopefully, everyone can see this. Hopefully that can be seen. This is a ticket, and I was having a clear out the other day. A ticket for the Zildjian Day in Birmingham, and I think it doesn't have a date on it, but I'm pretty certain it was '94.
Yeah, that would be around right.
And that was my first ever drum clinic that I went to.
I remember that event so clearly. I went out for dinner because I endorse Zildjian cymbals now, and I went out for dinner the night before, and with Tina Clark, Bob Witzling, and all the guys, the endorsees from Zildjian. And I remember it was Jonathan Muffett. There was
Testing you.
Yeah, Mark Mondesi.
Yes.
There's Steve Smith.
Yeah.
And it was... Who was the other one? Sorry.
He's French.
We've spoken about him recently. Manu Katché.
Absolutely, yes. Yes, indeed. Yeah.
And I remember,
what a show.
Well, I remember the night before, actually, we went out to a restaurant. My dad was there as well. I was still the young whippersnapper. And we went out the night before to this for dinner and ended up in this nightclub. And I was there talking to Jonathan Moffat. I'm just going to drop that name. Pick it up very quickly. We're standing by the bar, but it was quite funny. It was in my hometown, Birmingham. Are you all right, mate? And they got the crazy accent, and I was standing by the bar with Jonathan Moffat.
Right.
And he was, he's just got such a presence, such an aura, so much
cool
about
guy.
him. He really is. He really is. And he was approached by a young lady who had a couple of baby showers, I think, at the time, and he's having a chat with him. And I actually remember it now. It was so funny. It was just one of those classic moments that I just wish that I could have caught on camera. It's just like this lady turns around and says, young lady turns around and says, all right, so what do you do then? And he says, I'm a drummer. I said, hey, you've got a funny accent. He said, yeah, I'm from the United States. All right, where do you live then? Well, I live in Los Angeles. And says, come on then, have you played with anyone that we know? And he says, I played with one or two people. Yeah, I played with Madonna, and I've been playing with a fantastic singer called Michael Jackson. And to which this girl pretty much chucks the drink over him, tells him he's full of beep, and quickly turns through 180 degrees and just shoots off. And he was like, what did I say? It was just like one of those classic moments. And I just think, if only she knew.
Well, welcome to Birmingham. I'm looking at this here, right? This is how well attended drum events were then. I think there was a lot more than this, but my ticket number is 920.
Yeah.
You imagine trying to get 920 people into a drum event these days with just 4 drummers on the bill. Tell you what,
and they were special days. Really special days.
Can you remember who hosted it that day?
Comedian.
Yeah.
And I think his name was Roland Riveron.
Roland Riveron.
Was it? Yeah.
Yeah. And I think he'd had
a couple of sherbets.
Had he been out with you the night before? Because I don't think he stopped drinking.
No, I don't think he ever did.
Well, he was great, and he for those that are thinking Roland Riveron, if you remember French and Saunders' show, there was a duo on it called Raw Sex, and he was the conga player, and I'll never forget. I think he introduced the interval at the wrong time. So I said, right, we're going to have a short break now. Go and get a drink, go and use the toilet, what have you. So people are in the aisles, the house lights have come on. And I think it was Jonathan Moffat walked onto the stage. He'd got the wrong end of the stick. Jonathan Moffat sat behind the kit to play, and Roland Riveron sort of turned around totally unfazed, and he went, sorry, yeah, I've messed. He went, no, excuse my language. He went, just piss where you are. It's fine. And he just handled it brilliantly. I'm sure the Zildjian hierarchy would probably go,
pull an air at me.
but hey, what a great show! 900, and it was a Sunday. I think it was a Sunday. There we go. Doors
Sunday
open
lunchtime, wasn't it?
Yeah, 2:00 doors open. What a great, just amazing. Good times, good memories.
Really, really, and there's going to be more memories to come, mate.
Absolutely.
Well, more memories to make.
Yeah, well, we're going to do a few of these, and hopefully
you're enjoying it. Well, hopefully that'll be good memories.
We'll make a few more. Whether you're listening or lucky enough to be watching this, then I hope you're enjoying it. We are going to have some guests along the way as well, aren't we? We've got a few names in the hat.
For sure.
So, if you're enjoying it, please feel free to give it a share or whatever, recommend a few friends to have a listen. And so I guess we'll see you all on the next one. So it's been fun, Ian.
It's been great, mate. Really enjoyed it, as always. Fantastic to hang out, talk drums, and talk about what we love.
Nothing better. Right, guys. Thanks for watching. See you next time.
Thanks for now.
Bye-bye. cheesy grins at the end. Perfect.
I don't know what thanks for now means. Sorry.
That's all right. It's fine. It's fine. It's all right.
Thanks for now.